Pre-1947, Jews and Palestinians and Muslims and Christians were living peacefully without it ever being an issue, the fact that this is a Jew and needs to be killed. But somehow that's the narrative Israel has been able to sell around the world, that if a Palestinian is alive, they will kill us, so we have to kill them.
But at the same time, they say the good Arabs is the dead Arabs. That's what they say. The good Arabs, the good Palestinian is the dead Palestinian. And that's what they want, to eradicate all of the Palestinian people, ethnic cleansing or transfer from the Gaza Strip and the Holy Palestine.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. It's a very special episode of the Pakistan Experience. Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish is here with us. He was one of the Times magazine's 100 most influential people in 2010. It wouldn't be a mistake to say he's one of the most remarkable, courageous, inspirational people alive today. He was the first Palestinian doctor to get a residency in an Israeli hospital in Operation Cast Lead. Unfortunately, he lost 3 of his daughters, a niece, and in the current ongoing onslaught war that Israel has inflicted on Gaza, he's lost 22 of his family members. He's written a book called I Shall Not Hate. First of all, how are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah. Always alhamdulillah.
When you came in, I heard that as well. And now when I read the introduction, when I heard you, how are you thankful? How do you still have gratitude for life or God? How do you continue to live after suffering so much?
Alhamdulillah, every morning to wake up to thank God for everything He gives us, even anything God He takes from us. We thank God for that, because we are a trust from God, and we are living because of God's mercy, God's kindness, and we live in this world to have a sense of purpose, a mission in life. And we have to fulfill this mission and to accept anything that God gives us or does for us. Because always, even in the moments of darkness, there is a glimpse of hope and the beauty of it. Sometimes we see things as if they are bad to us, but later on we realize it was for good. Because I learned, you may dislike something and later on to realize it was good. Or you may dislike something and then it's good. So, عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم. And that's my faith, which helps me to keep moving forward, to keep hopeful about the present and tomorrow, and to see in life the goodness and the positive in it.
I think when the Holocaust happened, there was a lot of discussion around the world that what kind of a God would let this happen. If there was a God, He would intervene. Now when we look at pictures from Gaza, when we look at videos from Gaza, maybe around the world it makes people question the humanity. Maybe around the world it makes people question God. As somebody who has suffered, how are you still believing in humanity?
Not to question God, because in life we have choices. Life is what we make it. Always has been, always will be. It's in our hands. Not to blame God for what we are doing. God showed us the right from the wrong, the light from the darkness. It's the human being whom to blame. And what is happening in this world, it's not by God that He afflicted it on the people. It's the people who afflict it on the people themselves. It's man-made. And that's what I see it as a hope. It's man-made. What makes the evil to flourish, to spread in this world, is good people to do nothing, who are watching, because we are divided. People who are doing bad things to people, and people who are watching what is happening and thinking we are far from risk. We don't care about it. And that's what is happening for the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip now, with all of the suffering they are facing, which is man-made. And even other countries not only watching, but they are complicit, participating in it, and enjoying, sharing in the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, the Palestinians' Holocaust, which is happening there. And the people, as they are watching it, thinking they are far from it. And that's, so I lost faith in the humanity, not in God. I am sure, and will continue to be faithful and counting in God. God is the just. God is the supporter. God is the helper. And even because of faith, we see this affliction, this calamity we are facing. We are tested by God to test our faith. And the biggest challenge is individual responsibility. So we are up to the challenge, and I am sure, as a Muslim, patience is a virtue, is a value. The more patient we are, God will reward us. And this test, we as Palestinians, we will pass the test. And the reward will be the freedom, the justice for the Palestinian people.
You know, you say that, and I believe it to be true as well, because every time I speak to a Palestinian, the will of the people of Palestine is indefeatable. We from the outside look at the bombs, we look at the might of the world, and we almost feel it's impossible to win against that Goliath, that David will lose. But every time I speak to a Palestinian, even while they're taking out their loved ones from the rubble, they still have not just hope, they have conviction that Palestine will be free one day. Where is that will, where is that fortitude coming from?
The belief and the confidence in our rights. This is our right, this is our land. We are rooted there. And as you said, you speak to them now under the rubble, under the bombardments, under the killing, the starvation, the thirst, all kinds of suffering you imagine. They say we will never leave our land. We are rooted here. We are implanted here. And we will die here and not to leave it. The choice is one of two. Either to stay here or to go to meet God. And that's the deep faith. In spite of the challenges, the suffering, the pain, the bloodshed, the sacrifice, the price we are paying, because we learned the lessons. And as I said, we feel we are in a mission in life, that we as Palestinians in that holy land, the land of the prophets, where all of the prophets came, the land of Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj, the land of Jesus, peace be upon him, of Moses, all of the prophets were there. So we are blessed, and we say it as a blessing and a responsibility and a pride in that.
It's, there's a famous quote that they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. It's that same idea. You were born 10 years after the Nakbah happened. You grew up in the Jabalia refugee camp. How much of the experience of the Nakbah or the generation before you, the lived reality of Nakbah, what they experienced, is the reason for this inspiration, is the idea that this happened to us once. We were killed, we were massacred, our lands were stolen from us. We will not let this happen again.
Yeah, of course, it influences us, our parents. I am the son of parents who are survivors of the Nakbah. And when I hear them, till now, my aunt, one of my aunts, she is alive. And to speak to my, not to me, to my children, to tell them who we are, what we have before the Nakbah, where my grandfather was the mayor of the village. They have the land, the reputation, the respect, and they lived there with the good life, with the dignity, the most important dignity and the freedom. And then a sudden to be refugees born in Jabalia refugee camp, and most difficult when someone with dignity to be deprived of the dignity. They became deprived of the dignity and the freedom to be waiting for a humanitarian aids. As now the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip waiting for a humanitarian aids, and the whole world come to provide them with their vital needs. Even though that's why I lost faith in the humanity. So at that moment, our parents, they realized one thing: what can we do to face this Nakbah? So they invested in their children's education. And Palestinian people, they can sacrifice, they can cut from their food to educate their children, because they know education is the biggest weapon that we arm ourselves with. It's our passport to travel to this world, to enable us to keep the story of the Palestinian people. And who are the Palestinian people? Because some people, I ask them sometimes, have you ever met a Palestinian? Sadly, they never. He said, what is the difference between us and you? We are people like others, with hopes, with the plans, with potential, with the dreams. Gaza Strip and Palestinians, and Gaza Strip in particular, which is under bombardment, has the highest literacy rate. They have the highest number of PhD candidates in the Middle East. The Palestinians, they don't know the word to be defeated. The opposite, they are challenging. So that's why the Nakbah, which happened in 48, we will never repeat it. To leave our homes and to let others control us. And this, you see it these days with the people there. They will say, we will never leave. And that's what happened with me, even when my daughters were killed, 16th of January 2009. Always, the Israeli army, they say, to evacuate the places to a more safe place. What do you mean by safe place? This propaganda to be used to leave and to evacuate. They started to evacuate from the north to the south, and now they are attacking the south. Nothing is safe. Schools are targeted. Homes are targeted. Hospitals are targeted. Mosques are targeted. Churches are targeted. No safe place. The safest place I believe in is my home, because I know it. And the home is my dignity, is my memory, is my life. I will never leave it. It's my heart. Can anyone disconnect from his heart? We can't disconnect from our hearts. So at that time, when they insisted that we have to leave our homes, I said one thing: I will never leave my home. There is no reason to leave our homes. I'm not a fighter carrying a gun. I am a fighter with my mind, with my wisdom, with my courage, with my faith. And at that moment, my brothers, because we live at the same building, they were scared. And they want to talk to me to leave. I said, I will never. If you want to leave, God bless you. But I am not leaving. So they came from the back to speak with my daughters, to say to them, tell your father to leave. And that's the challenge. And that's the decision. When my daughter Mayar, who was 15, they want to talk to me about it, I said, if you want to leave, I will leave because of you. If you agree to leave, I will leave because of you. If you said yes, I will leave. Then her answer was, we will be killed here, but not to leave. And 2 days later, she was killed Shaheed on Friday with her sisters after they read Quran on Friday, to read Surah Al-Kahf and to pray Jum'ah at home. And 4:45 p.m. to be killed with her sister Bisan, Aya, and her niece Noor. They went to meet God determined, with a strong faith, with good deeds. And that's what we are determined. Whatever the world is going to be complicit to afflict us, because we believe if all the world wants to do us harm, God's mercy is bigger than them. And God is greater. God is watching. God is listening to the cries, to the pain of the hungry children, of the orphans, of the mothers, the widows, the old, the deprived, the thirst, the hungry. God is there. So we count on God's mercy.
I just don't have words to, even provide any comfort to the tragedy you faced. Even the time that you mentioned and you've talked about that you lost your wife at the same time. So there is some cosmic connection over there as well. The phone call that you made on Israeli television after this happened, even people whose hearts were turned to stone through hate, some of that might have melted to hear the pain, to hear the loss live on Israeli television. For people who now see children being picked up in bags, people are bringing bags in hospital with multiple body parts of their children. As somebody who experienced that, I hope that people, and I'm really sorry on behalf of the world that we're this.
It's unjust world. It's unjust, and that's why when you said I lost the trust in the humanity. Where is the humanity in this world? This what we call civilized, developed world. They are talking about the human rights conventions, democracy, freedom, justice, equality. If tomorrow any woman, something to happen, they will try to explode about it. And we have a good saying, killing a man in the jungle is a crime, but killing in an innocent nation is a matter of consideration. And that's the injustice. It exposed the hypocrisy of the international community. It exposed the double standards, the bias, the complicit of this international community, which is a myth. It's a propaganda used to control, to dominate others. And thank to the Palestinian situation to expose all of this, to the other countries in the world to wake up, to stand up, to unite against this hypocritic regime and system in the world, what is called the civilized world. Civilization should have moral, ethical, and human values, and to believe in it and to act, to walk the talk, not just talking about it in a biased way. And that's why, even at the time when you speak about the phone call, it comes from faith, because it was a plan to be interviewed live at that time. So I said, why? It was a plan to be interviewed at the time of the bombardment of my house. And when I called my friend, he responded and exposed it. The tragedy against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip was unfolded. As these days, it's happening in front of the eyes of the world. Live, it's happening. But what are they doing? They are watching it. When I see a bleeding patient, a woman in labor, in suffering, I run to stop the bleeding. At that moment when I was crying and screaming, I directed my face just to God. I said, Ya Allah, Ya Rabb, Ya Allah, Ya Rabb, because I don't have faith in the humanity who is looking at the Palestinians just numbers, 100, 200, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, all of the Palestinians, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide, the orphans, everything they are counting and watching it. And that's the unjust. And they are accountable about what is happening if they believe in a humanity. So I looked at my son, Muhammad, who was 11 years old. What will be his future? Because some people may think after the tragedy, we will be violent to get revenge, where they have the right not to get revenge, to feel angry, and even the perpetrator to be accountable and to pay the price of their crime against the Palestinians. But my son, he looked at me and to say, why are you crying? Why are you screaming? You must be happy. He said, maybe he doesn't know. He said, how do you want me to be happy? Bisan, Mayar, Aya, and Noor are killed. He said, I know they are killed, but I know they are happy there. They are with their mom. She asked for them. That's the Palestinian, 11 years a child who can teach the leaders who lost their humanity in our world. He believed that they are happy, and that's for me. Bisan, Mayar, Aya, and Noor. Even my nephews and nieces who were killed during this genocide, they are there. They went to meet their cousins and to be there with their God. They are alive and they will never die. ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. And even it's better for them to be with their God than being in this unjust, hypocritic, insane world.
I can't imagine how you get the strength to even go on. Like you said, Palestinians are not numbers, and unfortunately even the person who founded the We Are Not Numbers organization was murdered by Israel. I think of Rafat, who was murdered by Israel. These are people that I just know online, and breaks my heart for when we read things like 13,000 people killed, 13,000 children killed, 30,000 people killed. It's just a number for us, right? But at the same time, everybody who's listening has a brother, has a sister, has a child. They cannot even imagine or fathom the fact that one day they could lose that child, and that's one single child. And then you take that to 13,000 children who had the same dreams, who had the same families. So even the people who are alive in Gaza today, it's just, they've lost somebody. How do you, like, how was, you were outside when it happened and you saw the smoke?
No, I was with them. I was with my children. Just, I left my daughter's room. The first shell came. So I was with them. I was there. I don't want to describe how I looked at them, to see them. I want to recognize them. I want to see, where is Bisan, who was 21 years old? Mayar, who was 15. Aya, who was 14. Noor, who was 17. These beautiful, lovely daughters that I raised them to be human, to believe in humanity, to believe in education and helping others. I sent them to peace camps. The teachers they used to fight to have them in their classes. They never succeeded in their schools, less than 97% in their schools. Bisan was about to graduate from the university, and I promised her to send her to London School of Economics. Aya at the school, when I give her the money for her in the morning, she comes back to say, I bought pencils to give to the needy girls, and always to think of others, to be humble, to help others. And that's what I raised them. And that's what we need. So I know the meaning of children. As a gynecologist, for me, when I deliver the baby, how hard for the mother during a pregnancy, during the delivery, to raise the children. So I say to the people, zoom in. Put yourself for a second in the position of others. If you were there, what would you like others to do for you? And Gaza Strip, Palestinians in the Gaza Strip now, how is the situation? It's a childless, familyless. Families were annihilated. The orphans, the disabled, the widows, the homeless, lightless, hopeless, jobless, foodless, waterless, even the air that they breathe. It's poisoned with anger, with bombardments, with the rubble. How can we, Gaza Strip, the children in the Gaza Strip, before October 7, every 5 children, 4 were mentally disordered. Now, all of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are mentally hurt, in pain. So how can we resume and revive hope? And that's what I am thinking all of the time, to revive, to rebuild the hope. And Palestinians are one of the most resilient nations. They are resilient and they will never give up, but they need to change the context. And that's the responsibility of the international community, to change the context in which the Palestinians are able to move forward, and to say never again for what is happening, because it's not the first time. Just from 2000 until now, 2006, 2008, 2012, 14, 18, 21, 22, who can tolerate all of this? All of our children, our families, our people, their life is a war and suffering. It's not the pain for them. It's what others afflict them, and they are watching it, and they are even blind about it.
Why is it that Palestinians are so disposable for the world? I think if 30,000 people were murdered in Europe or America, I think the world would be in flames. It's almost like when Notre Dame caught fire, we saw a lot more outpour of grief and sympathy from the European nations than we've seen with 30,000 Palestinians being killed. Even the Arab nations seem to be apathetic to the cause. Why does the world not care about Palestinian lives?
It's not about, we have to say, it's not the world. We have to divide.
It's the leaders,
yeah,
the states.
Between the public and the administrations. The public as a human, they are there. You see it, the solidarity and the support and the demonstrations and the cries. The other day, an American pilot, he burned himself. Yeah. So the human being and the humanity is still there. But the political leaders who politicized it and devoid the humanity from its spirit, and they are completely in isolation from serving their communities for political agenda. for materialized world to dominate, to control, to achieve their own limited agenda. That's why the world is discordant. It's not balanced world. It's not peaceful. As before, violence, hatred, anger are endemic in our world. It's about politics and the political leaders. And it's time for those political leaders to change, to understand that they have to act based on what is right, what is wrong, and even to have morals, to have ethical values, human values, if they believe in it. Because one day these leaders, no one is eternal. They will leave one day. And what we call it, God delays, but will never forget. They will be judged by God and the people who will never forget what they did. And that's what they need. One day they will leave this world. And the day of judgment will come to them. What are they going to say on the day of judgment? In particular for Muslim countries, Muslim leaders. If they believe and they practice their faith. And the Western countries, one day their people will judge them by kicking them out of their offices. And when the fire reaches to them, now the fire is afflicting the Palestinians, but the smoke started to spread everywhere in the world. No one should think that they are safe from what is happening. They will be afflicted either directly or indirectly. So putting an end to the suffering of the Palestinians, working towards a just solution to the occupation, to the colonization, the whole world will benefit from it. The whole world. Before October 7, many, they thought the Palestinian issue is a trivial. Forget it. It's gone. Keep it in the drawers, on the shelves. They don't care about it. Whether Arab or Muslim countries or the international community. But now, the Palestinian issue is the central issue. The core of the world's and the top of the world's issues. It's the top agenda. The world is not stable because of what is happening there. The world is polarized and divided. And that's what gives me hope. But we need action. How can they tolerate to see the bloodshed running of the Palestinians? Because Palestinians will never accept to be just numbers. We are people with names, with faces, with hopes, with the plans, with the dreams, with rights. And we are determined to get our rights.
In a world that's this polarized and there is a select group of few who control everything despite what the people of the world may want. I mean, there may be 1 million people out on the streets of London, but the state of the UK decides to fund the genocide, to provide the weapons. You mentioned peace and justice. There's also this idea that peace is a colonizer's word. It's justice what we're looking for. If the world is unjust, let's say a pre-October 7th world where there was apartheid, where the people of Gaza were still starving, where it was still treated like a concentration camp. For the rest of the world, it was peaceful. Their lives, the quality of their lives did not matter to them. So in a world like this, with such an asymmetry of power, with so much control of modern machinery and modern warfare, how do we get to peace or how do we get to justice without violence?
But you mentioned there is asymmetry in power. In which power? Is it the military power, the financial power, or the spiritual, ethical, and the human power? We live, as you said, there are certain countries, they have the power, military, financial, technology power even. but they are bankrupt in a human, spiritual, moral, and ethical power. They lost these values. It is materialized because when you speak about technology, when you speak about military power or financial power, it's materialized world. What about the ethical, the moral, the human, the spiritual power? It's a stronger energy that we need it. So that's why you see the world is waning, is collapsing. We need both to come together in one world for all of us, because the days of colonization, superiority, discrimination, and the chosen nation are gone. God created us from Adam and Eve, and we became nations and the tribes to know each other. We were created equal, free, and we all have the right to live equally and free. And that's the stability of the world. That's the guarantee for a safe, secure, healthy, peaceful world. And when you speak about peace, what is peace? Because sometimes we use these terms in this world. And the people, they say, we want to live in peace. But they don't ask, what is peace? Peace is not just a word that we mention it. Peace, number one, we need to believe in it. We need to practice it. It's a way of life. It's a way of dealing with the self and with others. That's why I say peace is a relationship within and between us. And not only between us as individuals, between us and the environment on which we live, the earth, the neighbors, the community, even the earth, the environment on which we live. We are doing damage to our earth, to our environment, with the climate changes, with the different disasters, the natural disasters which are happening because of the violence we as people, we are doing to our earth and environment. So what we need in order to achieve peace, we need the dignity of all and the dignity of earth and the environment. We need justice. We need to deal with each other equally. We need to respect everyone's rights and the right to life for everyone. Once we achieved, and the freedom for all, once we achieve these means, peace will be the result, the conclusion of that. So the word peace, you want to write dignity, freedom, equality, justice, right to life equals peace or leads to peace.
So when we talk about not hating, you worked in an Israeli hospital. There were people who needed treatment and you were treating them. You've spoken about your daughter Bisan going to peace camps where there were Israeli children, where there were Palestinian children. And as children, they were all children. We can't hate people. We can't hate groups. But is it fine to hate somebody like Netanyahu? How can you not hate an individual who's responsible for so much hurt?
For me, it's not about the individual, about the action he is doing. And what happened and what I faced and what Palestinian people they faced, and anyone on earth, when we are faced with harm by someone to afflict us and to do harm to others, everything it has a stimulus, action, and there is a reaction. So the action should be faced with the reaction. The reaction to that may be hatred. But I say, what is hatred also? And that's what triggered in me to study the hatred and to do a lot of research about hatred. So the definition of hatred, mostly they speak about it as a feeling, as emotion, as behavior, as attitude. So if it is an emotion, it comes and goes. If it is a feeling, sometimes I feel good and then it changes. But I realized it's not. And that's what I came up with, the definition of hatred. And to understand hatred, it's not emotion or feeling. It's a contagious, destructive disease to the one who is afflicted by this disease. And it's the result of exposure. You will never hate me unless I do harm to you, a real harm, existential, a threat to you. What will be the reaction? So instead of focusing on the hatred on you, focus on the exposure. What are the triggers? And from your side, when I am afflicted with this harm, I have to challenge you. If you did harm to me, what I'm supposed to do? I want to protect myself. I have to take it as a challenge. And in order to challenge the perpetrator, I have to be strong. I have to be healthy. Mentally, spiritually, physically. With hatred, I become weak. I become poisoned. Poisoned with this disease. It's a fire that burns me and makes me heavy, collapsing. But I still have my life. I have to continue. How can I continue to get revenge from you in a positive way, not the way you did to me? To send you messages. You tried to kill me. You killed my daughters, but you will never kill us. We are determined to get our rights with the stronger means. And that's what our faith to teach us.
Did you always think like this? Because as a child who was growing up in a refugee camp, was being told about the Nakbah, your parents had farms, and then when you go and you see, now it says Sharon Farms, or Sharon owns that land, or there's a
But
kibbutz there. As a child, did you feel the same, or as a child, did you feel
of course.
hate?
As a child, I am a Muslim with deep faith, because we need to understand our faith. How do we treat? How do we deal with each other? So I learned Quran from my early childhood. I kept by heart to learn Quran and to practice. And that's the faith, to practice the faith. The faith is about dealing with each other, the core issue of our faith. And that's why, when we want to punish in Islam, النفس بالنفس, soul with soul, النفس بالنفس وَلَئِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ. The soul with soul, the teeth with tooth, the wound, even the wound with the wound, if you want to punish. But what it says by the end, if you endure patiently, God will reward you. Patience in our faith is a strength. So that's what we need. So in order to be patient, you need to be strong, healthy. You can't be patient when you are poisoned. Patience, it means you have to collect your energy, your power to move forward. And that's what I continued. It's not with hatred. I say I am a victim. And we as Palestinians, we are victims of the colonization, of the genocide, of the killing, of the loss of the loved ones. But we don't want to stay there as victims. We want to keep moving forward as survivors, as leaders, resilient, to be stronger. Otherwise, if we are afflicted with this disease called hatred, we are collapsed, we are broken. No, we want to revive our energy. And Palestinians are ready to do that. And they have done it before. And we will continue. Because, as Einstein said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep balanced, we must keep moving. Not if you fell once, you stay there. We kept moving faster, stronger, more determined, more focused, steadfastness and rootedness in our land. Without the hatred, I know the wound is big and we have a big scar. This scar that is left there reminds us, don't give up.
You're a better man than I am. If I had experienced anything close to what you experienced, I'd want to burn the world down. If there's a child in Palestine, if there's a teenager in Palestine who's lost all family members, who has nothing, and I have zero, I would never blame that child for doing anything, because look at what they've experienced in the past few years. How do
I-
you go to that child and say, don't hate? And
I will tell you. First, I don't want you to experience this.
Nobody should.
I don't want anyone on earth to experience this. Number two, if I want to get revenge from the one who killed my daughters or did me harm, is it going to bring my daughters back? What I care about is my daughters. Is it going to bring my daughters back? To get revenge from the one who killed my daughters. Is it going to bring them back? They will never come back. But what we need, accountability. Accountability. We need the people who did the harm to be accountable and to pay justice for it. And to have justice to prevail. What makes the people to continue, as we said, never again, never again. Why it's repeated? Do you know why it's repeated more than once? Because those who are doing it because of the impunity provided by the international community to support them and not to punish them, of course, they will continue to misbehave. So we need accountability. We need transparency. We need the order of law in our world based on justice and equality, not in a biased or double standards based on the name, nationality, or ethnicity. You see what is happening in Ukraine, how they reacted to Ukraine. Is it because they have blue eyes and the blonde hair? Though we as Palestinians, we have Palestinians with the blue eyes and the blonde hairs. And we are educated as the Ukrainians. But it's a bias. It's superiority. It's discrimination. And that's why the world is not what we expect from. That's why the world these days is not stable.
when you talk to we've just seen pictures and videos and coverage of it. What we see, entire neighborhoods being reduced to rubble, people facing starvation. When you talk to people who are still living there, you have family members who are still living there, extended family, how is the situation when you hear it from them, and what Israel has done over there in the last 6 months? Is there any coming back? Not for the people of Palestine will always stand steadfast. But for Gaza, it's just what Israel has done. It just seems like it will take decades to build it back.
Of course, because Gaza Strip was a hell before. Siege more than 15 years. With all of the challenges they are facing, I described. Now, Gaza Strip is a ghost. 80% of the Gaza houses are leveled with the grounds, hospitals, schools. Generations will be lost from their education. Universities, the agriculture, the life. The most difficult thing for someone to be homeless. It's a privilege for a Palestinian to have a tent these days. The cup of water is more expensive than the cup of blood. The Palestinians in the Gaza Strip now, their wish, if they were killed, to be killed in one piece, not to be shattered, to find the body, not to be collected in pieces, to be put in a bag. That's the sacred human being. It's a privilege for a Palestinian to have a funeral where they are now scattered, the bodies of the killed people, either under the rubble or even in the streets, inside the hospitals. They became cemeteries. The streets, every meter, there is blood of the Palestinians. So this land is watered with the Palestinian blood. But I am sure this blood will blossom freedom for the Palestinians to remind us. And the Palestinians are ready to start from zero. But this zero should be accompanied with freedom, justice, equality, dignity of the Palestinians, and accountability of the perpetrators and the world. And I am sure Palestinians will thrive and will move forward.
I have no doubts in the will of the people of Palestine. But do you have any hope left in the world that they'll intervene, they'll come together to ensure that a Palestinian state exists, so that there is a border, there is freedom? Do you have hope that that will happen?
I am here with you because of hope. As long as I am living, there is hope. Life is hope, but hope is not a word. Hope, you need to believe in it and you need to act for it. So we need the collective action of the international community, of everyone, of you, of everyone, to speak out and to push forward for the freedom and to take it to the heart, that the freedom of the Palestinians is from your freedom. The justice for Palestinians is your justice. And that's what we need. Not to say, let hope comes. Let the freedom comes. It needs actions. And everyone is responsible and accountable to make and to transform the hope into a reality.
In terms of hatred, when you went to Israel, you might be maybe at the hospital, at least the first Palestinian many people would have seen, and maybe in some of the most vulnerable moments, they're having a child, you're there. Do you feel that this hatred has been used in Israeli society to continue the subjugation of the people of Gaza by telling them Palestinians are a certain way, and you were able to break that through that people-to-people interaction?
Of course, I see it even these days. You see it with the incitement, with the fear-mongering that is used against the Palestinians to promote it, to promote their cause. You see it, what they said even from the beginning and even before, to speak about Palestinians and the collective punishment against the Palestinians, and to say Palestinians are human animals. They wanted really knocking the Palestinians with the nuclear weapons and even to level the ground as they did it in Germany. Do this, do that. You know, Gaza Strip, even now, how many tons of explosions for each Palestinian, at least each Palestinian in the Gaza Strip, his part may be 80 kilograms of explosions. What happened in the Gaza Strip? The bombardments and the explosions, more than 5-6 of the nuclear bombs used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that's what they said, even sometimes with this propaganda they are using, to say, oh, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen in times of war, but mistakes happen for once, not to be a habit and to continue. Because mistake is a mistake if we learned from it and not to repeat it. If we repeat it, it means we are intending to do it.
So, is Israelis, for this to happen, and I know there have been some protests against Netanyahu, and I know even people in the Knesset have spoken up against it, there is that left in Israel as well. But overall, for this Israeli society to have apathy, and we've seen in the past where they've gone on a hill to watch bombs being dropped, is that a society that's been deliberately inflicted with hatred by the powers that be to ensure that they don't see Palestinians as human beings?
Of course, you know, there are, number one, not to generalize, but now the Israeli public, after October 7, with the right-wing Israeli government, the fanatic, extremist Israeli government, like Ben Gvir, he is himself is a barbaric, is a terrorist, and he was accused of terrorist, Smotrich. All of these, even today, they took a decision by the majority of the Knesset not to accept any decision by the world about establishment of a Palestinian state. So now it's not for the Palestinians. It's for the world to stand up to say to them, you are not out of order. If you want to be part of this world, you should follow the orders of the world. So it's time for the world to say its word, and that's what we need, to protect them. Because I see it, what they are doing, it's not destructive to us as Palestinians only. It's destructive to them and to the international community. So where are the international community from their word to say it?
And the idea that they've promoted, that it's actually the Palestinians who hate the Jews, who don't want Jews to be alive, as somebody who was born in 1958 but has memories and has parents who've spoken about it. Pre-1947, Jews and Palestinians and Muslims and Christians were living peacefully without it ever being an issue, the fact that this is a Jew and needs to be killed. But somehow that's the narrative Israel has successfully been able to sell around the world, that if a Palestinian is alive, they will kill us, so we have to kill them.
But at the same time, they say the good Arabs is the dead Arabs. That's what they say. The good Arabs, the good Palestinian is the dead Palestinian. And that's what they want, to eradicate all of the Palestinian people, ethnic cleansing or transfer from the Gaza Strip and the Holy Palestine. So when you see what they are doing, of course, it's not related to reality. But when they lived with Palestinians in Palestine before 48, because it was Palestine and it will remain Palestine, they lived there as Palestinian Jews with full rights as the Palestinians, as you see it everywhere. Canadian Jews, American Jews, Belgian Jews, everywhere. So they lived there as equal to others. But they started, it's the ego, it's the greed, it's the arrogance, what they have. So it's time for them to understand, to be part of our world, and to be equal to others. And nothing can be achieved by being arrogant and to think the military power will provide you with security. What to provide you with security, stability, is acknowledgement of the rights of all, the freedom for all, justice for all, and equality.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. More power to you and all the work that you do. And thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.